So I've been involved in geodesign since day one, and I come out of every conference, meeting, project, gathering with a sense that we're making progress, with a greater sense of frustration. So I have 6 things that I'm frustrated about that I think the Pacific Northwest ought to address with the context of the future of geodesign. One is making the whole thing, whatever it is for you, easy to use. Designers work from the figment of the imagination through pencil and paper to some rendition of that imagination in seconds. Right? The concept of seconds in ArcGIS doesn't exist. The second thing I like to do is to challenge you, move beyond 2D space, flat maps, 2.5D space, relief maps, even 3D space, move into 4D space, which includes time, 5D space, which includes performance, and 6D space, which includes the economic pro forma of that performance quotient. So, for example, if you're going to design something with geodesign in time and space, you have to include those factors. Where is it? How is it moving? Right? How is it performing? And what does it cost to create that performance in a life cycle environment? The third thing is move from your systems values. Yes, we should think in terms of systems, holistic thinking in systems, to systems engineering. What are the techniques, the methods, the mathematics necessary to invoke that value in real time and space so that you know that you're working with optimum or near optimum solutions? We're teaching our students to think in terms of systems, but not to engineer in terms of systems. So advocate the integration of operations, research techniques, and other systems engineering strategies into the context of geodesign. The next one was brought up in the question that one of you asked after I gave my presentation this morning, was the notion of geospatial economics. This is an untouched field, relatively untouched. Many years ago, I did a siting study for nuclear power plants in Iran. This is before the Shah was disposed. And we worked with Electrowatt in Switzerland to identify the least cost formula for locating the containment vessel for the power plant. And that had to do with proximity to water and how it raised over elevation, the type of geography it went over, and geology it went over. Right? So we incorporate economics into the decision-making strategy, but this is seldom done. We often identify what we need to do to protect the environment or to increase performance for the users, but we seldom identify what's it's going to cost near-term, long-term to ourselves and to others. The next thing that I think I'd like you to do is to think about design ethic. So I said that the purpose of design is to facilitate life. That sounds simple until you ask whose life, which species, or what period of time, to what level of quality. As you answer that question, you develop an ethic for the project you're working on. That ethic becomes the foundation for creating the performance criteria that you evaluate goodness against. Follow me? So you develop this ethic regarding whose life, what life you facilitate, right? And how well you achieve that. Right? That leads to performance criteria that you try to meet to measure the goodness of your design. If you don't meet that criteria, your design doesn't qualify, or it's less good. Follow me? So we're not dealing with ethics in our geodesign studies, not dealing with this assessment of facilitating life, not dealing with developing performance criteria that we try to achieve in order to measure the goodness of our design. Now, when I was in school, it was very easy to determine whether the design is good or bad. I studied architecture. It was a simple ethic. If I designed it, it was good. If someone else designed it, it was bad. Right? So the last thing is sort of an underlying fear I have as we move into geodesign and parametric analysis and all this computer stuff. I mean, I come from that environment, right? But the fear is that we're going to develop mathematical solutions to our problems and not human solutions. So remember that when we do up analysis, the results, the value of the results are in the numbers we create, or in the plan we create. That's 50%, maybe 49% of the value of doing that. The other 50 or 51% is in having thought through the process in detail. So look for human solutions, not just mathematical solutions. Thank you.
I ramble when I'm tired, if you haven't noticed. Oh, is this on? Okay. So in response to, finish finishing off a prior thought, I think in a future-oriented mode, obviously we need to figure out how to get SIM, BIM, and geodesign integrated. And so we need some pilot projects or opportunities to do that where there's a current pain point and high value add. So it's almost integrating the ideas from our two group discussions. Per Bill's comments, I think that in the Pacific Northwest is a unique context in which to do geodesign work. You guys already have a lot of stuff going for you here, honestly, relative to other parts of the country where I work. So the environmental awareness, for instance, is a big asset. And having lived in Oregon, I kind of know how that works. So you have a lot of community that's interested in the values that can be measured using geodesign techniques. And you need to convert that into models of change or people contributing productive design solutions. And that's one of the things that's pretty unique about geodesign, is that it allows a lot of people to come up with design ideas and measure them against multiple benchmarks. So you don't need to be an expert in all of the ologies in order to propose a design. It may be shot down because it's bad from a perspective you hadn't considered, but that's one of the values. So off the cuff, I think what the university could do to help a lot, and starting with the university library, is to think about the geographic data holdings and pointers that you're using relative to the geodesign curriculum, organize that data so that it supports, to use Bill's phrase, not only a systems way of thinking about it, but a systems engineering way of thinking about it. So I'll make that more tangible. Not only do you need to have information about soils and erosion and erosivity, which I'm sure you do, but you have to have design ideas related to reducing erosion and best practices to reducing erosion. Put that information in one place so that students can get at that information about how the systems function naturally, what happens if they're screwed up, but also have good ideas for positive change about those. And that kind of coupling of design information, best practices, if you want to call it that, with science information is a not a normal way of organizing data, but in a geodesign program, I think could be a really useful one. And that's a thought experiment for you, at least initial idea.
This is the student in me speaking. We talked a little bit about some case studies of, and this may already exist, but of people who have actually gone through the 6 steps of the geodesign process. Now, there wouldn't be just one case study. There'd have to be multiple case studies that said, in this situation, we did this and this and this. So I was listening to the NOAA people over here who talked about responding to the oil spill, and they said, we didn't have a whole lot of time. We didn't have till 2017 to figure out how to do this. We kind of had to do it on the fly. And that certainly would be one case study. It would be interesting to see, is we didn't have much time, and this is how we went through the process. Or we've got till 2017 and unlimited funds to do this, and this is what we did in the process. So I guess at this point, I've listened to a lot of theory. I've listened to a lot of ideas. I'd like to watch how the process evolved and what the product was at the end.
Okay, so our group kind of talked briefly just about the concept of interoperability and integrating all of these ideas and all of our fields together. So the concept of geodesign sort of brings together the social and economic, engineering, geology, all these different components, but if we don't have consistent ways of collecting, managing, storing, and distributing that data, then what's coming out of these designs is only as good as the data that's going in. So going beyond metadata, sort of, how is this information being collected, and how are we getting that back out to those teams that are designing things? So that's sort of a big component that we sort of need this consistent language going back to just geospatial versus geographic. What are we really talking about in the world? We've gotten really good at sort of using metadata as a way of determining where exactly something exists, but what are we describing and how does that relate to all these other components? So just sort of everybody getting on the same page in the geodesign community as to what we're really talking about and what we're getting after.
All right, though our group has shrunk a little bit, we're on the same vein as these folks over here. First topic that came up when we went back to discuss was considerations for how we are stewards of our own data sets and some of the transparency issues when it comes to things like metadata and communicating the sorts of standards that we hold ourselves to, the sorts of methods that we use to collect and hold this data. Worry more about making those available and comprehensive enough that we can share data sources and data sets across multiple agencies, multiple jurisdictions. Not the easiest thing to do, but maybe worry less about trying to put it all in one place and focus all our energy on trying to get each piece of the data set in on time so that it's up to date, but just managing our data in a way that we can all agree upon, even if it's not a very standardized approach to how we collect that data, but how we present that data. That was just one of the topics. And I'm getting real tired, so I forget some of the other topics that we talked about, but that was it.
We were in agreement with table number 1, where we felt a pilot project was needed to investigate how far we could push geodesign to integrate BIM, SIM, and GIS. And University of Washington has some CAD and BIM data and some base maps, which is site or engineering information plus GIS information. They have a starting point for us. I also have information from Joint Base Lewis McCord. Again, I've got BIM data, SIM data, and GIS data, which I've been pursuing separately to integrate, but I would love to have others join in. So we recommend pilot project.
So we talked about 2 major points, and the first one was that this geodesign could be brought into an interdisciplinary design education, and that would be integrating civil engineering, planning, landscape architecture, science, geography, that it's an opportunity to really focus on the design aspect of geodesign, which in a way is Steinitz's change model, right? It's not about analysis. It's about coming up with new ideas, informed ideas that, as Bill said, can facilitate life. Right? There is an end purpose for it. And then those are informed by the impact models. And this process, of course, Carl Steinitz, that's how he figured it out, was through his course at Harvard. So I think it could be it's a great suggestion that our planner at the table had, that there could be this interdisciplinary studio to practice the geodesign process and use the new geodesign tools. And the second one was about how can geodesign help to affect people's perceptions and their behavior. And that it's really not just about the data. And of course, data is important, but it's also really about telling the story that is going to influence somebody's behavior and their behavior to incentivize actions that promote sustainability and to support decision making, again, that facilitates life. Did I capture it?
hopefully I'm the last speaker, so we can go enjoy the sunshine. I just wanted to summarize what we got a chance to talk about at the last table. I'm a graduate student, but I also get the chance to work in the library and serve a lot of people with the geospatial data. And there's been a lot of comments on increasing the amount of data and making it available. All things we definitely agree about. Where the rubber hits the road, though, is the speed of academia. Sometimes it takes us a while to kind of get moving and get things up and running and really centralized so that people can access those resources. But also getting the data from different partners, municipalities, and cities. A lot of times they don't want to share their data beyond the UW. So in your workings, really encourage organizations to start hosting their data or remove some of the restrictions. That way we can get the data, we can serve it out, and we can really allow people to have access to that stuff. And as researchers or people that want to share your data, we do have new initiatives in the library where we're actually going to have repositories for researchers to put their data out there so that as you write your paper or you have a publication or a write-up where you say, go here, access the data, we want to share it. We want you to then take the data and improve upon it, add value. So the libraries is a spot where we can try to collect more information and distribute it out so that you can get on your blowhorn and actually tell people about it. So as you're looking for resources, definitely turn towards the libraries and see what is available for you to use.
In terms of practical next steps, there is a workshop in Pasadena, California on May the 18th, sponsored by the University Consortium for Geographic Information Science related to the Sustainability Learning Communities Network, which has been organizing this. I didn't say anything about UCGIS, but many of you perhaps had scrolled down the page on the registration page, noticed that it was actually hosting or helping to coordinate this effort. There is also a CyberGIS and Geodesign meeting at Redlands headquarters. That's an international conference on CyberGIS and Geodesign on August 19th through 21st. The link also will be on the Sustainability Learning Communities Network, that page that you registered on as well. And the Geodesign Summit for 2015 will be January 22nd to 23rd in Redlands. And so with that, I'd like to bring the workshop, the event forum to a close. And not only thank you for coming today, but staying as long as you have to generate all of these great ideas that came forward at the end. Thanks very much for participating.